Hello, and welcome to the show Writing in the Tiny House. The entire point of this podcast is to help the tormented artist by sharing what I know about writing, publishing, and stress management so that you can have the tools to produce the content that you have been eager to write. If you have the steps in place, you can produce a short story in as few as 3 months or a novel in as few as 18 months. And hopefully through the ideas in this podcast, you will have the wisdom to adjust that timeline if you need to. I am Devin Davis, the guy who lives and writes in a tiny house in northern Utah. Thank you for tuning in, and please enjoy today's episode of Writing in the Tiny House. Guys, hello and good morning. We are into December now. Can you even believe that? My goodness, this year has flown by so much, for me at least. I'm sure that it has for you. It always seems that when the holidays come up, that they actually sneak up and that it's a surprise that they're here. Even though I am aware every year that November is happening and I need to prepare for Thanksgiving, I know it's all coming, but it seems to happen all at once and kind of be a lot. So I hope that your holiday plans are underway. And however you choose to celebrate the holidays in this upcoming time, this month and into next month or whatever your holidays are and however you choose to observe them, I hope that you are staying on top of it. So I know that kind of regardless, there always seems to be a lot of food, and I hope that your food is delicious. I'm a food person, and so that's very important to me. So because we are coming to the end of the month, we have 4 episodes until next year. Can you even believe that? This is the final episode that I'm going to be kind of doing the advice or the more, down to earth practical stuff with this year's season. And so in January, in 5 episodes, we're going to be in season 3 of Writing in the Tiny House. And usually in December, I like to become more sentimental with what writing is, what it does for me, why I do it, what it can do, what it can serve, why writing is important. Stuff like that. That's not what this episode is, but that's what the final 3 episodes of this year is going to be. So be prepared for that. Today, though, I'm going to be talking about the Freewrite smart typewriter. And the reason why is because back in November, I told you that I would be giving a full review on this. You get to know that the company that makes the Freewrite is called Astro House. They are not sponsoring this in any way. I don't get a kickback from something. I'm not selling you something. I am simply sharing with you the importance of having good tools. So when it comes to writing, writing can be done a variety of different ways. That's one of the cool things that I like about writing is the accessibility. You can compose whatever you want in a note on your phone, or pull out an old notebook and simply freehand stuff with a pen, or like any type of Word document, you can type right into a word processor online. There are a million different ways to write and a million different tools that are all available and all useful, provided you find a way to implement them the best. Some of them are free, some of them are very expensive. When it comes to word processors, I'm sure that all of us have computers, and it seems that every computer comes with something. It doesn't seem that way. It just is that way now. And that is a good way to get started with any type of writing project that you may be encountering. Now, there are other tools above and beyond that are all valuable as well. It just depends on how you want to employ them and how you want to spend your money. So as far as finding something to be valuable, that is all a matter of opinion any way you slice it. If you find that spending an extra amount of money on this or that helps you in your journey, you have the right to spend your money however you want. I purchased a smart typewriter for various different reasons. So with me, I said a lot of this in a previous episode in November or the end of October when I was preparing for NaNoWriMo, and I'm going to repeat kind of some of that. But for me, I had a problem where I recently purchased a desktop because I don't like to write into a laptop. I don't like the feel of the keyboard. I don't like staring at a screen. I don't like that. It's not my favorite thing. And so this spring I bought a desktop, and the thing about a desktop is you can't move it. I mean, it's where it is. It's on my desk, and I don't pack around my desktop wherever I need to go. So there were some really silly seeming, but also very important things that I needed to find a better solution for. I did not need a new laptop. That's something that I simply didn't want. I didn't want a thing that my kids could commandeer and play online games with. I didn't want something that could further distract my children from reality. I mean, my kids play a lot of games as it is. Video games are a thing that exist in the tiny house, and so does TV. And I didn't want another screen that could support all of that stuff. I didn't want to compete with my kids for that, and I didn't want that for myself either. So I got what is called a smart typewriter. This is called the Freewrite by Astro House. It looks like it's a typewriter. The keyboard is great. I love me a good clickety clack, ASMR keyboard. It has an e-ink screen that can be front lit if you want to. I mean, if we're going to be splitting hairs about front lit versus back lit, front lit is easier on your eyes. And all it is for is drafting. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. One of the biggest obstacles with writing any project is getting the first draft done. So I figured if I was going to be focusing so much time and effort on drafting, I mean, I write a lot. I have not released a lot of stuff, but I write a lot. And so it might as well be a keyboard that I love. I am very particular about my keyboards, and I don't mind spending a little bit more money on a good keyboard. But I have some other stuff going on. I am sensitive to my posture, to holding a specific position with writing. I mean, writing is hard on your upper back. It can be hard on your upper back and on your arms and on all of the muscles associated with that. And if you're spending hours doing that, first of all, you need to develop a habit of regularly stretching. But it's important to me to be able to change my position, how I'm writing. And so with my desktop, I have a standing desk and I do have a chair. And so standing and sitting are things that are things that work out. I can't do it for an extended period though, because my back gets tired. So I needed something that I could pack around. There are some other benefits too. Because the smart typewriter is just for drafting, it doesn't have anything else in it. And I'm not a person who gets easily distracted with the text messages and, browsing Facebook. I don't really have a problem with that. But I appreciate that none of that is even available on this smart typewriter. And the e-ink screen is super cool. I just love that. I love technology. Technology is so fun. But what I have found, especially on the day that I wrote 8,000 words. So the beginning of NaNoWriMo, I had an 8,000 word day. And I took work off, and it was something that I just wanted to do. I wanted to be a writer who had had an 8,000 word day at least once. And I knew that in order to do that, it would probably take all day long, which it did. And I would need to have some form of a tool where I could adjust my body as I needed to. And the Freewrite was the perfect solution for me in order to do that. So I could sit down, one weird way with my leg up. I could sit down another way. I could shift. I could come and set up my Freewrite on my standing desk, and I could stand. I could move it to my bed. I could do all of those different things. And over the course of November 1st, I wrote in 45-minute sprints kind of all day. I shook it up on purpose so that I could give my upper back a rest and so that I could let more words kind of fill the word vessel in my brain so that I would have more to write. For me, it's important to shake things up like that. And over the course of the day, and it wasn't even a close call. I finished at about 9 o'clock at night, and it was a perfect time to finish. I had spent the entire day drafting, and I drafted 8,032 words. And I did that all in the Freewrite. I have been drafting exclusively on the Freewrite, and I will continue to do so. It's perfect for that. For doing any short form things, like if I am typing notes for a podcast, or if I am drafting an email or drafting a letter or whatever, the Freewrite isn't going to be my choice for that. I'm going to be using my desktop. And it's just important to know. So with all of this, with all of these tools, I am grateful for my Freewrite. I'm grateful that I dropped the money in order to get that tool. It is something that I'm going to be using until it dies. I'm going to be using it to death. Some additional tools are software such as Scrivener. So I said that you can always get started on the software that is already loaded onto your computer, and you can, and you probably should. It's okay to not, drop hundreds or more, sometimes thousands of dollars up front in order to get all of the fancy things that you're not sure you know how to use, or sometimes there's a learning curve or whatever. But I was writing another book, 2 years ago, and I was 100,000 words into that book, and I was drafting on Pages on the word processing software that comes on a Mac. So I was drafting in Pages, and the thing is 100,000 words, even though it's all words and this is a text document, it's a lot for some of these programs. It can get a lot for them to handle. So at 100,000 words, I was finding that Pages was having a problem with formatting. It wasn't responding to some of my keystrokes. It wasn't italicizing. It wasn't doing some stuff like that. Now, on the Freewrite, I can't format anything. So, boo-hoo. That's something that I'm going to have to fill in and, do when I do my revisions. But I was worried with Pages that the document would crash and that I would lose something, just because the software itself was starting to struggle with such a large document. And that's why I migrated those documents into Scrivener. Scrivener is not expensive. It's $60, I think, $60-ish dollars. And it is built specifically to manage and handle a large text document. It is built for writing books. That's what it's for. Like if you're doing fiction, if you're doing nonfiction, and you have like the graphs and the images, you can do all of that in Scrivener. So with that, those are kind of the main tools that I use and that I am grateful that I, invested in my writing journey. So tell me about what you use. Tell me about if you use Scrivener, if you've heard of the Freewrite, or if you use other things. If you're an old-fashioned pen and paper type of person before you start revising, let me know about that. This podcast shows up on YouTube. It also shows up on lots of different podcasting platforms, and there's always a way to get a hold of me. If there's not a comment section in however you choose to listen to this podcast, there is certainly Instagram and email. And that information is in the show notes and at the end of this episode. So that's how I feel about tools. If you find a thing that makes your life easier and you can justify the expense, I don't want you to be spending your money unwisely, but you get to spend your money however you want. Go ahead and get tools. Tools make any type of art or any type of craft easier to do. So yeah, that's what I use. So thank you for joining me today, and be sure to tune in next week as we kind of change moods and get into the more sentimental stuff about writing here on Writing in the Tiny House. Have a good day, guys. Bye. And that is it for today. Go ahead and follow me on social media. On Instagram, I am at Author Devin Davis. On Twitter, I am at Author Devin D. And I also have an account on TikTok. Go ahead and find my information in the show notes of this episode. And remember that my short story Brigitte, which was published last fall, is available on Amazon as an ebook and on Audible as an audiobook. Go ahead and check those things out today. And be sure to join me on next week's episode of Writing in the Tiny House. Run by copy editor Chrissy Barton, Little Syllables Editing is a reliable resource for anyone looking to improve their manuscript. Chrissy does line edits, copy edits, and the final proofread for experienced writers and newbies alike. Go to littlesyllables.com and reach out to Chrissy today. A link is in the show notes.